Yo, this thing on? Is this thing on? Long live zone time. Welcome to Alleged Stats. Finally, after much discussion, much debate, we are back. It's Avry, Arun, Sam, Omar, and sometimes Julian, bringing back the continuation of zone time. Right now, it's myself and Arun, and Sam's going to join shortly, but Arun, it's good to talk to you again, buddy. It's good to be back again doing this show, talking
Yes.
hockey, talking culture. Finally, again, buddy.
What's good?
Oh man, I am doing well. We missed y'all. We missed y'all. We missed creating content after Yahoo went down. I missed coming in every single week, talking to y'all, chopping it up. I missed the laughs. I missed hockey content. It was fun, Arun. I missed that stuff, man.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Yahoo Sports Canada. We had a great run. It was a good time. But yeah, it's good to be back. Good to have the show. Where to begin, Avery? We can talk all aspects of hockey today. I'm ready to go in the throes of a seemingly never-ending playoff run.
Yeah, and I think the one place for us to all start to get back into things, and it's too bad he's not here right now because I know he would have at least a good 6 minute rant, is the Toronto Maple Leafs once again crashing down in a game 7, losing in the Eastern Conference semifinal to the Florida Panthers. A game in which not only Arun did they lose another game 7, we've been down this road so many times before. The Leafs losing do or die games to Boston, to Florida, to Montreal, to Columbus. It was a game in which they lost this one 6-1 after having a great response in game 6. We saw just fans fed up, a fan base annoyed, and what looks to most likely be the end of the core four era in Toronto. Arun, you were there covering it, and just want to get your impressions on this Leafs team once again falling short.
Yeah, so I mean, lots to unpack there. Yeah, I was in the building for game 5 and 7. So watch consecutive 6-1 losses. Yeah, I think like entering the night, like there was obviously some optimism in the building and really like informal polling around like media members. Like a lot of people were asking each other, like, "What's your read on tonight?" And the consensus answer was like, "We don't know. Like we'll see what happens." Um, but yeah, I mean the Panthers just like took it to them. Like they're a great team. They excel on the forecheck. Um, but I think what's particularly telling was Craig Berube's answer yesterday at the end of your media day was like the Leafs sort of betrayed their principles. Like all year, they were like north south hockey, simple hockey, pucks on net. Um, you know, rather than playing this overly complicated game. But they couldn't even get out of their own zone for the first 9 minutes. The shot attempts were 25 nothing. 25 nothing shot attempts. I mean, this counts unblocked shot attempts as well, all shot attempts. But I think the Leafs couldn't even generate a single scoring chance for the first 9 minutes before William Nylander burst into the zone and got a good shot on goal. Like it was just like it was kind of ridiculous. And then yet they fought back, and yet they played like 10 strong minutes in the first period there. So you enter the first intermission scoreless, and like you're like, well, this could be a toss up. Like they withstood a bunch of punches. And Joe Wall was really good. And then it all came apart in the second. Like it just they had no answer for Seth Jones. They had no answer for Nico Mikkola. Nico Mikkola, by the way, like you want to talk about players who have like risen the playoffs. Um, like he's like I think he's quickly becoming like maybe a star between our eyes. I don't know. I don't want to like go out and be overly declarative, but like in my opinion, of his game will certainly change. He was excellent, and I think like that also was the frustrating part too. Like process matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was game 7 and they lost 6-1, and it's because Alexander Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Reinhart and Carter Verhaeghe went crazy. Like it still wouldn't feel good at all, but you could be like, well, the Panthers like stars rose to the occasion. Like they got cooked because Seth Jones went crazy because Nico Mikkola was maybe Seth Jones was the best player on the ice. Nico Mikkola a close second. Like that third line of Brad Marchand, Anton Lundell, and Eetu Luostarinen were dominant and have been the best line in the playoffs all year. Like AJ Greer was activating off the rush. I know he scored last night against Carolina, but he like you know what I mean when you lose to the ancillary players, like Jonah Gadjevich had more goals in the series than Austin Matthews, and I think
Wild.
that's a wild thing to say, right? So I think like that is where the frustration is. It's like, I've written about this all year actually. This idea that, and it really started from the Leafs start of year press conference, right? Where they addressed reporters to begin training camp. And what I surmised at the start of that was the Leafs have taken an incremental approach as opposed to a radical disruption approach. Right? At this year in the timeline, there's two schools of thoughts, right? It's like the core four era um, is in good shape under Brad Treliving. He's making the necessary upgrades. He's revamped the defense corps, and he did. The Leafs goaltending is a plus asset with two starting goaltenders. You know, so incremental adds is all the team needs. Or the radical disruption option, where they have to trade one of the four core guys. And Brendan Shanahan um, stuck to his vision of this core four is good enough to lead this team to a title, and they haven't been. And I think on top of that, like you talk about the frustration, it's how it went down. You know, they lose in game five in a close game. They lose in game seven in a close game. It'd be frustrating. Um, and sure, there may be some of the narratives, but like it's how you lose 6-1 in game five. Mitch Marner played the worst game of his career in that game. And you could argue he played the second worst game of his career in game seven. Austin Matthews, he was hurt, and he revealed to us yesterday that he suffered an injury in training camp. Certainly, you can empathize with that idea, but yeah, like, two goals isn't good enough. Um, Especially with the attendant expectations that come. And excuse me, I have some allergies, I guess, but we'll go over this like too, like um, just this idea that like the market and the media, the fans, like this idea that like the fans and the media are too hard on the players is just absolute nonsense. Um,
Ridiculous. It's crazy.
like I'll tell a little secret, like, and this is not to like betray any of my peers, but like the vast majority of us on the Leafs beat want the team to win, either because we're fans of the team or because simply it's in our best interest for the team to be good. Like, we don't want our seasons to be over. You know how sick it would be to cover a conference finals? It'd be amazing, man. Let alone a Stanley Cup final. Um, and even if you want to put that part aside and say, well, that's still being a fan, the simple truth of the matter, and you know, Xavier, from covering a team, the team that you cover is winning. Everyone's in a good
Yeah.
mood. Players are in a good mood. It makes for a better environment for all parties involved. So this idea that the media and the fans are to blame for this in any way is just patently ridiculous.
Yeah.
Uh, and then also too, so this sort of stems from, Brad Marchand and Paul Maurice, and I think Matthew Kachuk on a podcast, all spoke to this idea that it's like uniquely difficult to play in Toronto. Like, and it was accepted um, at face value. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, they're clearly trolling, and obviously they'll push back against that. But I think the idea that there's been no critical thinking applied to um, the Panthers saying it's hard to play in Toronto after they won Game Seven. Come on, guys. Let's be honest here. Like, I'm sure that there's the mutual respect between both teams, and the Panthers probably realize the Leafs are a good hockey team objectively, but like to say that while we feel for the Leafs playing in this market, that's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
No, and to your point, when you talk about the media and fans, I mean, you're right, Arun. Like covering a team in the conference finals, covering a team in the cup final, it's good for the media because even those who is, say they aren't fans, if they aren't fans of a team, end of the day, you have to do your job for longer. You have to do your job for longer and deeper into a season, and that's a good thing. For me, the Edmonton Oilers having more success is good for me. It's good for my bank account. It's good for me as a writer if this team goes deeper and has more success. But a point that Sam made on Twitter, NHL players and the whole the pressure thing, the pressure points, and that you only hear about NHLers even suggesting there's an issue with that in hockey. You don't see the NBA guys having issue with this, or football, or baseball, or soccer. It's only NHL guys where there's an issue with pressure and big market, and that comes with the territory. I mean, yes, there's lines you don't cross. There's lines you don't go past, absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is the big time, baby. This is professional sports. This is what you signed up for. You signed up for the pressure. You signed. This is your job. This is life. I look at the NBA. Giannis Antetokounmpo wants a big market. He's flirting out the idea of going to a Miami or a New York. Only in hockey do you see a lot of these guys. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of these guys say, "Oh no, please, I want to play somewhere where I'm never noticed."
Yeah, no, I mean you raised two like easy good points to go off there. Like one, like let me be clear. Um, Mitch Marner takes a lot of undue bullshit. I mean, part of my language here, I guess, but there have been some reports that have emerged, and some I can confirm too, that there have been some factions, um, I wouldn't even say the fan base, the population that have clearly crossed the line with Mitch, and I don't want to again say what these incidents are, because I just don't want to popularize them any further than they are. But after Game Seven, Mitch was subject to um, some bullshit that clearly crosses the line um, of fandom. Um, but to your point, I think right, like this idea that um, the players like face like some unique criticism in hockey. It's like you're not playing for Lazio, bro. Like you're not playing for a team that has ultras. Like people keep using these parallels to North American sports. Like, oh, it's imagine playing for the Knicks and saying this, and it's true, right? It's like imagine playing for I don't know, like Chicago Bulls, or imagine playing for Dallas Cowboys, right? Like, sure, but it's like, man, like imagine playing for like an India Pakistan cricket match, right? Where there's like geopolitical tension on the line. Like it's like a fraction of what those guys face. So it's like, yeah, like there's pressure, but then I'm sure I'm not the first person to make this point. Zach Phillips from Leafs Morning Take made like an easy point the following day. It's like, imagine telling that to Real Madrid, that like, well, you guys have to win the La Liga every year or the season's a failure. So this idea that like it's a uniquely difficult sports market is just ridiculous. But yes, I will say that I don't want any part of making um, Mitch Marner's life experience more difficult than it should be. Like criticize the player, and which I did. I wrote as much that he played the worst game of his career in Game Five, and that this is the end of the core four. But there is some stuff that crosses the line, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And I think, and someone who I have been critical of in various forms in media, and someone who I think his time's coming up is Brendan Shanahan. And I mean, there have been rumors, links to Shanahan to possibly moving on or being courted to being the president of New York Islanders. And I think that it's beyond time again because there's been the one consistent through all the different players, coaches, GMs. Brendan Shanahan has overseen a lot of this era and not gotten past the second round. So at what point does this fall on him? And hang on, wait a minute, hold on a second. We got somebody popping up in here right now. It is the one, the only Julian McKenzie from The Athletic and SDPN, The CJ Show. Julian, what go on, sir?
I'm good. I was just checking in, man. I saw the Zoom link, so I was like, I just want to know who was in and who wasn't in. But yeah, congrats on alleged stats and Zone Time 2.0 being resurfaced from the dead. I just want to say hi. I just want to say hi.
What's up, Jules? How you doing?
Doing good, Arun. Good to see you, buddy. It's just you
Good.
guys hanging out. We just hanging out is what we doing.
We're hanging out, and I'm also monitoring the news wire as MLSC is to meet with Brendan Shanahan tomorrow, and according to your co-host Chris Johnson, and
Oh, you said something?
I
merely
mean,
that no
you don't know?
MLSC is meeting with Shanahan tomorrow,
Yeah.
Thursday for those who are listening. Sorry, I should use the day of the week. The Leafs have yet to announce when the end of year for Shanahan, Tree, and um, MLC CEO Keith Belly will be. So I'm just really my next 24 to 40 hours sort of governed by one notification to tell me when when we're going there. But yeah, we're just talking about sort of the Game Seven collapse. We just talked about Mitch Marner and just the idea of like fans and media being to blame is ridiculous, while also realizing I'm not going to get into it. I'm sure you know what the incident is, Jules, but like Marner did face a lot of stuff that crosses the line of fandom after Game 7. Um,
Hmm.
so I'm not going to go into what it is but yeah, that was pretty awful. So it's just sort of bouncing those two ideas. But yeah, anyway, this is not a Leafs podcast, so we can definitely go into other topics for sure.
No, but I get it though. Like the Leafs have kind of, and I know you're gonna hear what I'm about to say, and I know what you're gonna think, but like they've become the story of the moment. Like
Yeah, no,
I
true.
think their implosion in Game 7 and what could be on the table, what it seems like anyway, for their front office. Like you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's gone to a point where it's completely overshadowed the conference finals.
Yeah, I mean to a
I
degree,
think it's
Yeah.
completely has.
to a degree. Like, I mean, I watched last night's game, or at least parts of it. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, how can it not, right? Like, the league's
Yeah,
most popular team is about to make a seismic change or two. Um, and this is not a very well liked team outside of this market. So,
I
uh,
mean, it's the team that like they've gone through this for how many years? And I think like if they
7 years,
had lost that game 7 like 9 years, like if they lost
not
like 3-2 or something in overtime like in game
it's
7,
7 years.
I don't know if we talk about them the same way.
7 years because the first 2 years don't count. The first 2 years they made the playoffs. Tavares
Yeah.
wasn't there; they were still young. Um, like I can speak both as a fan, and I guess I wasn't reporting on the team at the time. Like in 2017, like I gave them a standing ovation of like my in my living room. I'm like, great job, guys, you'll be back. In 18, you're like, man, Frederick Anderson picked the worst time to have his worst game of the season. What are you gonna do? But Tavares signing with the team changed the sort of the narrative and inflection point, and for good reason too. Like the Matthews, Marner, and Nylander all grew into their primes that season as well. So it has been so that's why I say 7 years as opposed to 9. John Tavares signing on July 1st, 2018 marked the Core 4 era. And but yeah, I mean, I guess I'm being pedantic. Like you're right. Like it's just like a matter of what feels like a wasted decade. Um and yeah, I mean, look, like again, like from Leafs end of your media day, like some takeaways, like, you know, I don't want to necessarily like make life more difficult on Mitch Marner, but he probably held his final media availability as Maple Leaf yesterday. Um, this report that CJ said, like the MLC board rather still haven't made a decision on Shanahan's future. So I can't speak declaratively there, but we'll see, right? Like
Yeah.
reading between the lines, it might be like Shanahan in real time, maybe fighting for his job right now.
I mean, if you have been at the helm for all those years and you can't accomplish the goal of, bringing your team to conference finals, a Stanley Cup final appearance. Apparently, like from CJ's reporting, is like the goal this year is to make it to the conference final. They didn't do that. They were a game short, and not only were they a game short, they got blown out in the worst game possible. Their last two home games, they got blown out in the worst possible fashion. Yes, you win on the road in game 6. Yes, Austin Matthews scores, but you get embarrassed at home in key moments where your team needed to be the team. Anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse essentially because I feel like I've done enough of that on CJ show. But what I will say, like I feel like this board meeting or whatever's supposed to happen on Thursday is gonna be like to be a fly on the wall for that
Oh my God.
because
I know.
this could still end in the team saying, you know what, we don't want Brendan Shanahan to go anywhere. Let's tender him another contract. And then from in on down, if you're going to keep Bradtree living, which it looks like they will, you could still say, hey, you know what? Do we really want to let Mitch Marner go for nothing? If Marner keeps that door open, I still think he's gone, but we'll see. Is John Tavares still staying?
Yes.
There are a lot. You mentioned that contract that says, hey, that contract he signed that basically ushers in the core 4. I remember a lot of Leafs fans jumping up and down and being over the moon when he signed. And I've seen a lot of fans in the last couple of days wish he were gone because they don't think he's enough at this point. Like
Yeah,
it feels like there's these paths for the Leafs to take, and I think there's a path where a lot of fans would like to see them take. There's still a world where maybe the Leafs say, you know what, like the potential of letting some of these guys go, maybe that like how do you go about replacing these players? It's just there's
Mhm.
so much intrigue and drama. I'm not saying like they will go down that road, but like there's a world where this doesn't go the way Leafs fans would want it to,
Yep.
and God help this team after that if they don't do that. Because if they, there's no way this team could run it back again. But if they even do anything that sort of seems like they're running it back, yeah, I think there's a lot of vitriol coming their way.
I agree with the vast majority of what you said,
Sure.
except for the idea that like Tavares is coming back. Like I'd be shocked if he's not. Based on what he said yesterday, based on everything he has said, based on just even like outside of covering the team, just the idea that he's entering his age 35 season. He's has 3 kids. Like his roots are here. You know, he is sort of um, he has a sort of the romanticized Greater Toronto Hockey League phenom to captain the Maple Leafs to headlining star on the Leafs. Like he'll come back. Like I think he's going to sign at a rate too um that doesn't dictate him getting the most money, but I'd be surprised. But also to your point,
For
you're
what it's
absolutely
worth, all I'm saying is that I've seen fans say that he should leave. I
and,
like
right,
he,
and I was just getting to that. You're absolutely right on that part too. Like I've had
yeah.
um friends who are not in media who are absolutely Leafs fans who are like, why bring Tavares back? And I'm like, guys, he's going to sign at a rate that makes it impossible not to bring him back. And he had 38 goals this year, man. Like he's still a very valuable player. Finding what the ideal role for him in the playoffs, that's the challenge for Berube and company. But you're absolutely right on that, Julian. Like, despite the fact that I think it's a pretty much a certainty that he comes back,
Yeah.
um, there are a lot of fans who absolutely uh, are saying to hell with it. Let Marner and Tavares both walk, and build a team around Matthews, Nylander, and Matthew Nyes, who's going to get the bag as an RFA and deserves every penny of it.
Yeah, no, I agree, guys. And I know you made a cameo, Julian, but I do want to ask the both of you guys here when it comes to now the Eastern Western Conference Finals. I won't ask you guys who wins, but I do want to ask both of you when you compare Carolina, Florida, and Edmonton and Dallas, which matchup to you guys is the more compelling one?
Ooh, more compelling is Edmonton Dallas.
Yeah, easily. Like
Easily.
you go ahead, Arun. I'll follow after you.
Sure. I mean, I think even if you strip aside the narrative point in that like the Panthers are owning the Hurricanes right now and further cemented that point last night, like it's just more fun hockey. Like the Oilers and Stars play up tempo hockey. The Oilers more so. But you could make like a strong case that the Oilers are maybe the most entertaining team in the league to watch, right? Based on their idea that they kill teams in transition, they have so much speed, they can score in different ways. Playoff Draisaitl is a real thing. Um, even take a guy like Evan Bouchard, who's made tons of strides defensively this year. Like he still like gets active in the rush. So just like just like the style of play is a lot more like open, I think, and that makes for it. You want to talk about historical rivalries? Like those of us who grew up in the '90s saw tons of Stars Oilers. That might renew something there. But I think too, like there's something to be said for, you know, putting aside all this like Leafs drama, like of the Final Four teams, like you would think Edmonton has the most compelling narrative, in that like, and I've been saying this for like 4 years. It's the just in the way that like basketball media turned on LeBron until he won a title. It's that time for Connor, man. It's his time now. Like you're in the Final Four, you're back. Go win it, Oilers. Like even take a look at the previous the Golden Years Oilers. They got absolutely punked by the New York Islanders and came back the following year and routed the New York Islanders. Like, look, we learned our lesson and kicked them in the teeth and started their dynasty that way. So that would be really compelling from that point of view. For the Stars, like Mikko Rantanen's having a tour de force playoffs, you know, can he just continue to like, drag the Stars? Like, hey man, Wyatt Johnston, like drag the Stars team past the Oilers? Like that's compelling enough for me. Um, and then yeah, like to Florida, like I'll say this, like, and as like a Leafs reporter, it's perhaps not my place to say, but like they play a style of hockey that's like more attractive than they're giving credit for. But at the end of the day, like their entire style is based on like, winning on the forecheck, capitalizing on mistakes, and sort of like just pushing everything to the outside. So largely because of the playing style, I'm more excited for Oilers Stars, but also because of the McDavid narrative. Like, go fucking win one, bro. Like you didn't win an OHL Cup, you didn't win an OHL title, you haven't won a Stanley Cup. And you should return your Conn Smythe trophy to Sergei Bobrovsky because, well,
I know, 40. Arun, I cannot argue against 42
Nah,
points. 42
nah,
points a postseason.
nah.
you want my honest
If,
one?
if
42.
Sergey if the Panthers won that series like they should have in 4 or 5,
What do you mean
Sergey
they should have?
Bobrovsky.
They still won it.
They almost blew
Hold on.
it.
Okay, if Sergey Bobrovsky,
footnote in
if
the
the
story.
Panthers won that series in a sweep or 5 games where Sergey Bobrovsky was absolutely dominant in those first few games, I'm with you. Sergey Bobrovsky should have a playoff MVP to his name, and we're saying automatic Hall of Famer for a goaltender with a playoff MVP and 2 Vezinas to his name.
Already, but do you want to hear my ultimate hot take?
No, just let me finish for a second because I don't disagree with you on the automatic Hall of Fame thing. I think that if you have 2 Vezinas in the era that you're in, like,
Yeah.
it makes it very easy to make your case for the Hockey Hall of Fame. We're talking about a player though in Connor McDavid who nearly single-handedly put the team on his back and almost did a reverse sweep, which would have been the most incredible series we have seen this century. I don't know how I don't have a problem with him winning playoff MVP after that performance. 42 points, as Avry keeps saying. I don't. What's the? He doesn't have to return anything back. I disagree with that completely. He had a dominant postseason, and I thought was the most valuable player to his team. And not to mention Sergei Bobrovsky faded down the stretch of that series. They did enough to win at the end, but Connor McDavid deserves that playoff MVP trophy. There's no debate on that.
I have an even hotter take coming.
Oh,
Go
here we go.
Go
Let's go.
Go off.
If the electorate actually knew how to evaluate defensive play, then Gustav Forsling would be the Conn Smythe winner. But they don't.
Oh my
They
god.
see-
Yo! You hearing this, Julian?
Why are you galaxy braining this?
Yo!
Actually braiding it.
Give Gustav Forsling the MVP every year then. Are you gonna I hope hey look, if Dallas makes it to the cup final, which I think they could, I hope you I hope Miro Heiskanen wins.
There you go. Because that would
I hope Miro Heiskanen wins according to your logic, and we should totally ignore everything that Mikko Rantanen's done to this point.
No, that's not what I'm saying either. But what I'm saying is that there needs to be a need for better fluency when it comes to understanding how defensive impact.
I agree with. I
think
agree.
I think two things could be true. I think people could have a better understanding, should have a better understanding of how to evaluate defensive performances, and we should acknowledge the performances we can immediately see with our eyes when a guy like Connor McDavid goes off the way that he does.
Yeah,
I think two
1000%
things could be
agree.
true.
Maybe we need more than one playoff MVP award to give credit to guys like Gustav Forsling or Miro Heiskanen.
No, we don't. I disagree with that. I don't think we do. If Gustav Forsling is an absolute force in the playoffs, whether at both ends or just his defensive impact is so undeniable, we cannot look away. There's an award in place to give him votes and, give him the respect he deserves. It's not impossible for a defenseman to win playoff MVP.
No,
if he is the guy to do it, let him have it. If Seth Jones is the guy to do it, let him have it. If it gets to that point where Florida gets there, I don't think we should get to a point where you're starting to do like 2 or 3 of these awards. I'll say this though, maybe for like the Norris, maybe you find a way to turn that into an offensive defenseman award, and then you add a proper defensive defenseman award. Maybe you do that, but like I don't know, man. Like I don't think we should complicate things when it comes to these playoff MVP things. That's just my view. I don't know. Like I know we're harping on something that we could never change, but like I just disagree.
I hear you.
disagree, and that's okay to disagree.
Who's your Conn Smythe winner right now? Actually,
Mikko Rantanen's my pick.
I'd say so too. I would say Mikko Rantanen is my pick right now, while leaving the door open for several candidates on the Panthers.
Absolutely.
Honestly, like Mikko Rantanen would be my vote, but I would give serious consideration to Lewis-McDougall right now.
Sure.
So those are like, I'm cheating because Mikko would seems like the unanimous pick, and it should be. But that's my second pick for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rantanen, I agree, is the odds-on favorite, but I'm going to leave that door open. I'm going to leave that door open to someone from Edmonton if the Oilers do go forward. I do think if Edmonton does advance, you are looking at possible Conn Smythe guys of possible either Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, or Evan Bouchard, who people are finally apologizing for. I mean, Evan Bouchard is a guy in which, yes, there have been at times defensive mistakes here and there. But he is still a developing right shot D-man who has made more good plays than bad plays for Edmonton time and time and time and time again offensively and in his own zone. He's getting better at denying zone entries, which some people at times don't want to acknowledge. They want to say, oh, Bouchard's all offense, ignoring him causing a turnover, ignoring him denying his own entry. So I think Evan Bouchard is going to be a guy you will hear if Edmonton makes to the Cup final. Maybe not win a Conn Smythe, but be in the discussion. I think Edmonton's in the Cup final this year.
For sure. I think it takes time for narratives to change, Avery. And like Evan Bouchard has improved significantly as a defenseman this year. How many people are paying attention to that popular narrative? We'll see, right? It might be those of us who, cover hockey for a living, but it's
Mhm.
made significant strides this year for sure, and that has to be accounted for.
And the whole compelling thing, I mean, yes, Florida, Carolina, great teams. I want to see Carolina break that Eastern Conference final game losing streak. They've lost 13 games in a row now. Time is taping. I want to see a Rod Brindamore team break on through because he deserves it. That Carolina fan base deserves it. But when it comes to compelling, it's Edmonton, Dallas. Again, for someone who's covered last year's series, as a kid who grew up in Edmonton, watching Edmonton, Dallas, 10-year-old Avery, 9 and 10-year-old Avery had a burning disdain for guys like Mike Keane, Benoit Hogue, Guy Carbonneau, Brendan Morrow. Those guys, year in, year out, would slap Edmonton up in 5 or 6 games. Edmonton would always, there would always be like that 1 or 2 games Edmonton would win to tie the series up or be on the verge of making the series 3-2 Edmonton, and they couldn't win that game. They couldn't get that game because someone like a Hogue or a Mike Modano or Joe Newendike would find a way to end them some way, somehow, every single year. So those of us who are between the ages of, I would say, 31 to 36, Edmonton Dallas is very compelling right now.
I just want to say one thing before I skip on out of here, and I got to eat lunch. But Avery was probably jumping up and down when Todd Marchand won that one series in the 90s. Probably up in his pajamas. Probably up on. Always great to catch up with y'all. See you guys in the group chat. Arun, I always love our back and forths, buddy. You are the man.
So do I. I might have to run too. I don't want to cut this interview short, but if I may, the Leafs have just
go ahead.
The Leafs have just granted the Islanders permission to speak to Brendan Shanahan, so I might have to. I'm just organizing my desk right now.
Yeah,
okay,
this could be a busy day, man.
Oh wow! All right, Julian.
Bye, guys.
All right, bye, guys.
right,
yeah, holy shit.
Are you gone, Arun?
No, I'm good. No, one of my editors took on the story. It's fine.
Okay. That's breaking news, right? That's live. That's Arun Srinivasan reacting live to the news on the Islanders for each other, Brendan Shanahan. So there you go. You got some live reaction from the Leafs Nation managing editor.
It's like, it's just like, it's fine. It's like the news itself's not surprising. It's more of me just, you're watching a over-caffeinated desk editor react in real time.
Oh man, so I do want to, as we wrap things up here, I do want to get into one thing that was easily the most ridiculous tweet of the day, and I wish Sam was here for this one because she would have a really good take on it. It is longtime Vancouver sportscaster Don Taylor, who worked for Sportsnet, TSN, other outlets out in Vancouver. And it was one where hockey Twitter is on him for us right now. Actually, all sports Twitter in Canada is on Don right now. And I quote, last night, Don Taylor tweeted out, TSN leads SportsCenter with NBA playoffs over NHL playoffs. SGA or not, that's embarrassing. 51st state stuff. Really? Really? You're gonna get, as a guy who's been in media for that long, Mr. Taylor, you know how a sportscast works. You know what the important stories are, especially to a Canadian audience. And a series with Shai and Lou Dort, Canadians in the NBA, on the verge of going to the NBA Finals. That is more important than Carolina, Florida. What are we doing here?
Yeah, that's the 51st state part is crazy, but you know what, man? Like, it just speaks to just how little people know how these decisions are made. I would often see this too sometimes when like pre-championship Raptors fans and Leafs fans would often fight over like the programming block over SportsCenter, and they would like view him as like um sort of the positions of the fan base, like, oh, Leafs fans, you always get like the opening of SportsCenter, like you think you're superior to us. Raptors fans would, or like, the Raptors would get the A block, and Leafs fans would be like, oh, this, that, next, and there would be like this territorial aspect to it, bro. Like Don Taylor should know better than this, man. Like a TSN program director picks what goes in the A block based on what's most topical to the audience, and that's how the programmer begins. And then they find something that goes in the B block, and then the program continues. It's nothing deeper than that.
Yeah,
But it's just like it's so silly to get that bent out of shape about what happens on a television sports highlights program in the year 2025. Like if you don't like it, you have so many other options to watch hockey only, if you're so inclined, and that's a pretty stupid way to view sports. But yeah, I mean it just like what we can say is like the please like my sport aspect of it is just so cringy all the time. Like I'm sorry, man, as someone who covers professional hockey, if I ever get precious about covering hockey or thinking it's a superior sport in any way, just shoot me now. Like um yeah, and look, man, like also it just sort of betrays like an understanding of sports. Like that's a 68 win Oklahoma City Thunder team. That's the correct me if I'm wrong, Avery. That's the most wins since the 16 Warriors, right?
yes, it
Oh,
is.
it is, right? So it's the most wins in 9 years. Of course, of course, that's a story. You know, the NBA is announced for MVP tonight too. So like SGA is like I would argue the focus of the basketball world at the moment. Like how is that not a storyline over um, the Panthers bottom six leading a victory over the Hurricanes in game one of the Eastern Conference Finals? I just the more compelling angle objectively has to be the Thunder.
Absolutely. And I saw there was a pushback when it came to, I saw there was a pushback, and a great point where when you look at, say, when a Canadian golfer wins a Masters or wins a major tournament, that leads Sports Center. Or when a Canadian in tennis wins, or you see a Canadian tennis goes far in the French Open or Wimbledon, that's a major story. That leads Sports Center because it's a Canadian on a global stage. TSN Sports that we are beholden to telling the Canadian stories. Yes, I mean, hockey's a part of it. But when a Canadian or Canadians, plural, do well on a global stage, that should lead our network. That should lead our broadcasting channels. And Don Taylor replied to Phil Red, Basketball Phil on Twitter, saying, my mistake. I thought Machard, Bennett, Reinhardt, Maurice Brindamore were Canadian. That, you're missing a point, Don. They're always featured because hockey is the main sport. The big thing is that it's Canadians doing well in sports we do not always get the shine in. Basketball, golf, tennis. That is more important than Canadians doing well in the NHL. How do you not get that?
Yeah, man, and I'm with you. I mean, personally, I can even just like, remove myself from the nationalism part of it. Like, I'm not necessarily a proud Canadian either, but just
Mm,
viewed in just pure sports terms.
yeah,
Like, what's the most like true, right? Like, and this is it. Just seems to me that like people get so mad about their personal preference. Like, I'll say this, so not to contradict myself, like I don't watch golf. I don't particularly care for golf,
mm,
but um if Brooke Henderson like wins a major, she should lead the programming block. Like it's
absolutely.
like if Bianca Andreescu wins the U.S. Open, or and it gets loses in the U.S. Open final to Serena Williams,
Mm,
of course a national storyline. Of course, it should be number one talking point.
yes,
I think what people don't realize is that their own sort of preferences, you have to look at things like objectively. Like what objectively is going to be the most topical thing in sports? Like, man, it's like I also don't understand like how you get into sports media with that sort of like mindset either. Like, you
I don't.
know, are you not trained? Like, are you not trained to like to think of the larger sports world outside of yourself? And you know what? I shouldn't express this with such naivete. Like I've seen a lot of talented people not make a career in this business because they were so singularly focused on thinking that their sport's the only sport that matters,
Mhm.
uh, and not exclusively like aspiring hockey writers either. But you'll see it sometimes. They'll be like, "What do you mean my sport of choice isn't getting all the attention?" And it's just like, man, like you have to look at it as just like an ecosystem, and you have to be able to weigh proportional balance, um, and put your own sort of preferences and biases aside. Um, you know what I mean? Like it's just so, I don't know. I mean, to me, you mentioned it earlier in our chat, and I thought of it as such a non-story. Like I did see the tweet last night.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, look at this dumbass. But then to like learn that it's like a sports media member, it's like, man, like where's your critical thinking? Like,
It's
I don't know.
it is so weird because, like I mentioned, I grew up watching Don Taylor. It's someone who's been around for decades upon decades, who's covered multiple sports and know how this game works.
Yeah,
And even look at things objectively, the way the national pride. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's Canadians succeeding in sports that many years ago Canadians didn't do well in or didn't get that shine in sports like tennis. But I remember when tennis, I remember when you only had in tennis for Canadians was Daniel Nestor to really follow because Canadians weren't succeeding in singles tennis or in basketball. I remember I sent a group chat. I remember when Don remembers as well too when the Canadians of note were Bill Wennington and Rick Fox and a young Steve Nash before he was the MVP. They weren't stealing headlines.
yeah. Sorry, I was just instructing my desk to handle the news. No, you're right. Like it's yeah, that's so funny, man, that people get bent out of shape over what the TSM programming block would do.
No,
That's so funny.
it is silly. But either way, like I said, how it's been fun getting back to this essence of getting back to what we did at Yahoo, what we're doing now. I'll say as much, Arun. I would love to see some way, somehow next year, you either coming out to Edmonton or somehow we get an Edmonton Toronto playoff series because I think Edmonton Toronto in the Cup final, it's something that we joked about for a long time. I would love to see you coming out to Edmonton to cover that series, Arun. I would think that'd be a blast.
I would love that too. I'm gonna try to will that into existence. I need to talk to my bosses and make it happen.
Anyways, with that being said, it was a blast. Finally getting to record Alleged Stats episode 1. We gotta dive in a future episode as to why this became our new show name, what the origins were, because the backstory is very funny and it involves a debate on hockey Twitter. With that being said, for Julian, for Arun, and for myself, Avry, thank you all for tapping in to the debut episode of Alleged Stats. We'll be back with episode 2 very soon.